Hi, David. Hi, Kun. So it's been a year since After Digital and Peppered merged to create CultureSuite, bringing together strategic expertise and technical brilliance from two brands that have a wealth of experience building websites for arts, culture, and entertainment venues. I'm here with David Johnston, founder at After Digital, and Kun Vanderpool, founder of Peppered and now CultureSuite, to find out more about the brands and why the merger happened and their ambitions for the arts and culture sector. So hi, Ken. Hi, David. Can you tell me a bit about yourselves personally and how you came to lead your respective brands? Let's start with Peppered, Ken.
Hi, Matt. So that's a long story. Gonna try to squeeze it in a shorter one. Um, uh, Peppered was founded 24 years ago, almost 25 years. Basically as a freelance side project next to my studies at the Technical University of Delft. But it quickly got out of hand when we started working for Theater de Veste, a theater in Delft, city where the university was as well. And one thing led to another, and before we knew it, we had a company with people and a lot of arts and culture organizations that we built websites for. However, after quite some time, we decided to go a different route and stop creating websites the traditional way and look more for the collectiveness. And that was the birth of Peppered as it is built and used today, SaaS solution instead of one-off builds. That allows us the collective approach that we still use and plan to use for a long time to come.
Awesome. And across the pond, or across the North Sea in Glasgow, we had something similar happening at After Digital. What's your side of the story, David?
Well, I guess after digital really came into being, it was early 2016, and it was actually myself and Ken Beattie, whom I had worked with at a previous agency that started the business. And initially, it wasn't focused purely on arts and culture, but it was definitely a business that we created that was really to try and provide, I guess, world class like design, development, and advice, strategic advice to the sectors that we worked in, which at that time arts and culture was one of them, education, food and drink, and some, I guess, luxury goods was another kind of area that we focused on. But over the next year or so, we dropped off the other sectors and really focused on arts and culture. And really then after the second or third year, it was all about being known for that kind of quality of advice and design in arts and culture. So we were building and designing custom websites globally, and we were also integrating with the various different ticketing and box office systems. I think where we started to see this idea that why were we reinventing the wheel each time? So there was a few core elements around the ticketing integration and the ticketing path that we thought actually we could productize that and actually be able to do more for less. And I guess as we'll speak about later on, that sort of path started to lead us more towards where Kuhn and Peppered had got to as well.
Yeah, as you say, we'll come back to the brands and how they're serving the sector a bit more in a little bit. But I wanted to ask also about your earliest memories of arts and culture. Obviously, arts and culture has such a profound meaning for so many people. How did arts and culture shape your character and values?
So it's an interesting one. I think, as we would all say, culture is pervasive. It's our, people say it's this or that, but I think, culture is how you see it. And I think probably my first experience was actually I was selected to participate in an art competition for my school, and I had to go to Kelvin Grove Gallery in Glasgow, and I ended up drawing, I think it was a samurai warrior in charcoal. So I guess that was my first experience of culture. But I think, and this is my take on culture, I think I was very much into music from a young age, and not having the talent or the capability to play an instrument, I decided to take the easier option and become a DJ and run my own night and that world, which maybe isn't typically seen as cultural. was a big piece of getting into like the performing arts and music and all those things in general.
And you, Ken?
Maybe it's not my earliest memory, but the memory I do think about is early day of Peppered, actually. So early 2000s, I was almost literally grabbed by my hair. Believe it or not, there was hair here. Grabbed by my hair to see dance performances when we started working for Theater de Veste, because their marketing manager knows a lot about it and just wanted to introduce me to it. So even though it was a world that I did not know, was very far off from my background, it did spark something. And also to this day, I very much enjoy to see a dance performance, especially modern dance. And I'm actually also now in the supervisory board of a small dance company called 155, doing really well and enjoying that a lot.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about how you two met? We've heard about the infamous meeting at TPC 2019, but what actually happened? Was it an instant bromance, or was it just a beer talking at the time?
What actually happened? Like, as if there's a secret story? No, I think it was, we were introduced mutually by someone that we knew who I think said, Quinn, you would be interested to see what After Digital were doing, and likewise, David, you'd be interested to see what Peppered are up to, and we literally did a demo to each other. I think in the venue in Birmingham. Can't remember the name of the venue. But what I also remember is after that meeting, I closed my laptop and it caught in my jacket and it cracked the screen. So there was a lasting and expensive memento of our first conversation. Like, cracked the screen. I don't know what that means.
So. Well, what did it mean?
Well, clearly it wasn't a bad omen because the merger happened.
Yeah. I think obviously the conference at TPC. So I guess big thanks to Andrew Thomas for facilitating that. But yeah, obviously over the course of the conference, we then spoke a few times and had a few drinks and exchanged contact details. And maybe you can recount from your side.
I believe the universe was trying to tell us something for a long time. We actually did, I don't even know the year, but when it was still Peppered, maybe like 2010 or something, we actually had a company visit to Glasgow and watch the Rangers game, where there's some connections to David there. We just met at that was it TPC. And in a way, even the COVID helped because we found each other, kept communicating, kept phoning each other, and all those things just brought us to where we are today. So there was, as for how Peppered started, from my side at least, never a big master plan leading up to this, but we kind of converged to where we are today, and it feels very organic and natural fit. So that's something I really also enjoy, and I think is very powerful.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting, COVID happened and maybe that actually helped the communication, because I do remember, it probably seems strange to say now, but someone who you'd met at a conference and had a few emails and definitely a will to try and help each other out or see. I think there was mutual respect for each other's business. But to have like, they were real beers, but virtually, have beers on a Friday across the sea, and those 2 or 3 years of talking and communicating. But then I guess, really when things started to open up, and I suppose this is fair play to Kuhn. I mean, I think we can all have these nice conversations and exchange platitudes, but in terms of making something happening, it all started with an existing Peppered client where Kuhn had said, here's potentially a piece of work that we can see if there's actually something here, and we did, and yeah, everything led really from there, I think, because otherwise we would have just continued to speak virtually or have beers now and again. So we needed that kind of catalyst, I suppose, and I guess a big part of our history is that first piece of work with the doula, which we're obviously still proud of.
Yeah. So both brands started as web agencies, with After Digital also providing strategic consultancy and design. And both brands have obviously been operating a long time in the industry now. What were the recurring themes and challenges you both saw in the arts and culture sector that led to CultureSuite's mission statement?
I think that this appeared to be true not only from my perspective in the Netherlands and Belgium, but throughout the whole world. We're seeing this, is that the challenges are basically always the same. So everybody that works for arts and culture does that with full-heartedly, which is actually why it's so appealing to work for that sector, in that sector, be part of it. But there's always a problem with not enough people to do the work that's needed. Also, not enough specific knowledge, especially on technology sides of things. A willingness to be progressive, to innovate, and there's a possibility of collaboration always, because more than competitors, they're actually all venues are in the same boat, need the same things. So that really leads up to that collectiveness. And I think if you then go into the CultureSuite brand, was really also needed to give space to that feeling, and not just oh, here we're Peppered, we're selling Peppered, or we're After Digital, we're selling After Digital. But we wanted to also have room for the CultureSuite feeling, and I think the name is really spot on. To use an English saying, it does what it says on the tin. It literally also appeared to give breathing room to what we also are, a group of thinkers, and we have the sector in mind and want to improve that sector. And yes, we also then have the product Peppered and the creative minds that we use for the After Digital brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to your point, Matt, like what we were seeing was, and I guess couldn't have seen, sort of reacted to earlier with Peppered, was just this idea that and you know, to build custom solutions and then go on this kind of process of 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, perhaps for whatever reasons, that custom solution or custom elements maybe not being the funding there to support the ambitions, or obviously the markets and conditions changing and reacting, and you know, at the end of the day, the suppliers, the agencies that provide this service, you know, they are not charities in themselves, so having to charge billable hours to do the work. And I think that's what's really kind of coalesced probably before the merger and during, that there is this real need to adopt smarter, more sustainable ways of spending the budget, facilitating the kind of the user needs from the customers. And yeah, I guess what we've came to see, or the market is understanding, is spending $250,000, $500,000, 50k even on a custom site is not a great investment for the future.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, there's a lot of experience between the two brands. I mean, when you guys were looking at a merger, what was the reasoning behind merging, and how did you foresee the benefits to brands, and more importantly, how would it benefit live event venues in the future?
I think and what we found to be true, we are just, this almost sounds like an advertisement for it, but we generally are a perfect fit. I don't want to say there were shortcomings, but we do see that the strength of one was really not a strength in the other, and combining it was just also such a natural fit, and that's what we're finding today. I think where Peppered had issues in trying to reach also the UK, US for further growth, but also some of the design skills and experience After Digital has with working for larger venues and doing the strategy and design, and bringing that into the Peppered product, improving the Peppered product, and also allowing Peppered to grow outside of the mainland Europe. And on the opposite side, I think After Digital was in a way doing great work, but looking for a model that's more closer to what we're doing, to use more of the collectiveness in the sector. And this is really a very cliche 1 + 1 = 3 kind of situation. So it was a very natural, logical thing to do, and obviously it's always has to be proven in the end, but it already proven itself much earlier than I expected myself, actually. I mean, we have our challenges, obviously, and not everything is going perfect, but I have to say, I'm really proud of where we are today, and how the team is really come together as CultureSuite and no longer as a separate Peppered and After Digital team.
Yeah, I think we joked about obviously we spent weeks, months in discussions, and of course we tried to plan as much as possible, and almost everything we planned didn't come to pass, and everything that's happened is better than we planned. Not to say we were just freewheeling, but it was being able to react, and I think that's testament to both the Peppered and After Digital team, that everything we didn't plan a new brand, a new parent brand, but the open-mindedness of our team and then that kind of willingness to buy into everything was a fantastic experience that we really all enjoyed. And I think maybe to go back to the bit of question from I guess the agency side, we've spoken about sustainability for arts organisations. I also believe that to a large extent it's important for sustainability of the supplier side, and I think this traditional boom or bust, what's the next contract, how are we going to pay the bills in 6 months' time, is not a great situation for any business. But if that's the way you have to operate, in terms of you're waiting for the next contract, you're obviously doing your business development or marketing to generate leads, even if you have a pipeline, it's still uncertain. So I think the sustainability and predictability works actually for both sides, both the arts and culture side, but also the supplier side.
Yeah, I think it's also fair maybe to talk about some of the challenges we're still seeing and what we're hoping to overcome in the upcoming months, years. Is that especially in the beginning in the UK, US, response was also a bit of, this is too good to be true. How can this be? So we really needed to have that proof also out there, and I'm very happy that we do have now some proof in both the US and the UK. At the same time, from the mainland Europe, it was also, well, hold on, what's going on here? Are they moving away from us? Why is there now English-speaking people instead of, for the Dutch Belgium, Dutch-speaking? That's also challenging. We have more people now Dutch speaking on customer support than we had before, but still we need to work on obviously getting everybody up to speed, and be showing that. So it's on both sides. I think to the UK, US, we need to prove that what we're saying is actually true, and it can happen and it can be done, and we are proving it every day. And to I think the from the Peppered side, we need to show that we have no plans of moving away whatsoever, and still offer plan to offer even better support than before. Those are challenges that are also very much I think true and honest. But end of the day, the approach that we're now on, and having the inspiration from all sides. So a venue in New York uses our system, a venue in Amsterdam uses it, a venue in London uses it, and they inspire each other, and that really brings forward the collectiveness that's more international even than ever. And I think that's a really awesome future. And in a way, I kind of hope that we keep doing this. This is too good to be true kind of thing, but then prove it is true.
Yeah. And you guys obviously touch upon the kind of unsustainable model, the more traditional way of paying large lump sums up front for website builds before. Obviously, on the flip side of that, there's some aversion to subscriptions and SaaS products. People are often concerned that the lack of ownership for the things they pay for. Why is the SaaS model necessary for CultureSuite, and how does the brand continue to bring value to venues over the course of a subscription or license?
I think it's an interesting one, because I can only really speak properly from the traditional web agency space, and I guess After Digital were one of the core protagonists, are like, but we push this way of working, where I think not just in arts and culture, there's a conditioning of, well, you go to tender, or you go and seek a web developer, and they go and take a generalist tool and they make it work for you. But I think in most instances outside of that, procurement, most arts and culture organisations are already, whether they realise it or not, that most of the systems that they use are all SaaS-based or license-based products. So from email to project management tools to CRM tools, everything else is SaaS-based. It's just a conditioning from the market that, you go to tender and you go and get a custom design, custom build. And I think the answer to and the answer in itself is in the sort of why SaaS works. For us, we are, we're a business that's now just over 30 people, but we're able to have almost half of that team focus on the advancement of our platform, whereas an agency of 30 people, well, even if you've got a development team of 10, 15, the reality is that you don't have 10 or 15 developers all working on the same product. You would go bust. So what happens is a team of 15 ends up, you're working on 10 products. There's probably 1-2 FTE on each product. So, and with the best will in the world, you can't share that knowledge across all 15. So you do have these branches, these silos. So, at a purely commercial level, being able just to have all of those people focus on the one platform, taking it forward, tapping into, as Kuhn mentioned, so much. We can take credit for some things, but actually, genuinely, if you look at what the platform is doing with 93, 94 clients at the moment, a lot of the great features have came from the clients. So it's just us harnessing that and productizing it. So it's not us sitting here saying that, we've got this super roadmap crystal ball. Like, it really does come from the challenges or the edge cases that we can take and actually make it of more value than just to one. And that's a sort of core, I guess, tenet of the features that we do create. That often it isn't just for one organization; it's what benefits, the community in general.
Yeah, I think the irony is that if you create what is perceived as a custom website, again, it's not really custom; it's just built on a generalist tool, and then try to customize. A lot of budget, or all of the budget, has to be spent in getting it done, living up to the go live date, and from there try to keep it okay as possible until you do it all over again. And in this model, is much more about accepting that actually, and also we see that the market is starting to understand that more and more and more. Most of the biggest part is actually things we have in common instead of we differ, and by making sure that things we have in common, to get that on a really high level, on a sustainable level, and keep updating, continuously improving it, then you can focus on the thing that makes you unique. So again, the irony is that in this model, I think there's actually more space for the uniqueness of individual venues than there is if you would do it all from scratch and try to reinvent the wheel every single time, spend your budget on those wheels, so to say, instead of spending most of your budget on what makes you unique. So I think that there's a bit of irony in there, but I'm really happy to see that more and more are getting that, and the proof is there that they're onboarding now on our model, and we truly feel this will be the model of the future for everyone. And again, it's about proving that this indeed can be done, and figure out the best way to do it.
I think that's where it's interesting, the experience that After Digital had in like digital transformation, strategic consultancy, when we actually did a lot of work outside the arts and culture sector, that a lot of the recommendations we would make was, rather than going off and building something custom to fill that need, why not look at the internal business process, and do you really need to do that custom? And actually, is there a better way of taking something that is a product that exists, and actually, if that can do 70-80% of what you need, actually, is that a more like sensible way of doing it than just because you can or you have the money at the time to go and do something custom, when actually looking at the process and the efficiency of that might be a better way to look at it. And we are absolutely seeing that across the board in arts and culture now, where it's fundamentally, we're here to serve our users, not create custom things just because it's a pet project for someone internally in the organisation. It's generally about how do we serve the patron better.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously you've touched a lot about what the ambitions of CultureSuite are in terms of how the brand is going to have impact on the sector in the future. But what do you see the future of CultureSuite look like, and how would you like to see the brand's impact on the arts and culture sector?
I think there's the main thing, and again we go back to why CultureSuite brand even exists. We do have a passion to try to do our bit in how we can improve the sector, we can help improve the sector, help move the sector forward on the things we can add to it. And by offering a sustainable model that's a lot safer, but also allows for the team to focus on what that needs, I think we can play a even bigger role in the future. And that's both regional, if we're talking to a local government, it's the venues and the clients that use the software, and it's about thought leadership. It's about really driving this forward in the way we believe is the best way, and then also in a free, open situation where we also respect the fact that we will always be used, and think it's really important to be used in an ecosystem of tools. So it will always be also about what else is used in the sector, what is relevant, what are the partners, what are important connections, and how can you not only build something that's beautiful and easy to use for the visitors, but also how can we make sure that it's easy to use, it works, it's safe, it follows regulations, and is on the forefront of accessibility, SEO, etc. Instead of hoping that a venue will get some more budget in 5-6 years time and then try to build it again and again. Help them not only improve what they're doing every 5, 6, or 7 years, but do it continuously and use possibilities, inspiration, etc. And maybe that even ties back to why a SaaS model like this offers more custom than custom, is that it also allows you to use what was invented during any period. So we have our 17 yearly updates, the 3 weekly updates, and it allows for new features. And we do see that inspires other venues. And somebody invents we invent something with venue A, venue B starts using it, thinking, well, hold on, if I use it like this, maybe we could also that. We add that on top, then venue C starts using it, and end of the day, venue A will also use that improved version. And that's a motion we're seeing more and more often, and again, also internationally. And that's, I think, super inspiring that we can literally see a development that first sparked off on Hawaii to be used in Hasselt, Belgium, the next day. And I think that's really amazing.
Yeah, I think the thing that's been really, I think uplifting is a strong word, but the conversation has changed genuinely, because I mentioned before that agencies aren't charities. They have to obviously pay the bills, find new work, do new work, and genuinely to be able to have a conversation with our clients, a client, and not be at the back of our minds saying, as much as we're trying to give the right advice, where is the next kind of piece of development work or billable hours coming from, that we can have a genuine conversation. And actually the currency isn't money, it's actually the ideas and the sort of the exchange of that. And it's just been over a year, and just the way that the conversation has changed with clients. We've always believed in partnership, but it feels like we actually are truly in partnership now. And even from things like in some ways, there's never enough project management, there's never enough customer service. But again, in the old model, someone has to pay for that. But because we can build up a great support team, a customer success team that is there to support that one platform within reason, fair usage and all that, but we can be there on hand to support the client whenever they need on a daily basis, and not have to worry, is this hitting the 20 hours of the retainer, or are we going to overservice that client? So to take that away has been like massively powerful for everybody in the organisation. And then I think even moreover, to you mentioned about the vision, the plan. I think it might sound a bit grandiose and maybe we're deluded, but I think if we can get to the point, maybe we are, if we get to the point where 3, 4, 5 years from now, it's kind of seen as the industry standard platform, or at least the platform of consideration for arts and culture. They need a new, not just a website. There's more to it than that, but actually having that seen as this is where we go to first, and then having, can mention the ecosystem of partners. Actually, the agencies that maybe we would have considered our competitors historically, that actually they're now saying, like, this is a great platform for us to work on. We can design on it. We can do all the great work that adds value to the clients. But the Pepper CultureSuite as a business is taking care of all those maybe often less seen as the let's put the budget into security and accessibility, but we can take care of that, and then that allows these amazing creative agencies and branding agencies and whoever it might be to do great work that the end users interacting with.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why the CultureSuite brand has resonated so well in the industry. I think everyone wants to see more sustainability in the industry and help support and promote that, especially in the face of what seems like constant funding pressure in the sector. We've heard about venues have funding cuts even in the last couple of years, and we hear about governments and leaders around the world often deride the value of arts, especially when compared to STEM subjects. How would you like to see the industry thrive, or have change the conversation around the value of arts?
Well, it's kind of like you mentioned the funding cuts, and sounds a bit trite maybe, but as the pennies have disappeared, it's like the pennies dropped. Like we can't keep spending like this. And I think to your point about STEM, obviously there's a new acronym or a variation of it, of STEAM, where the A is now for arts, and I think it's truly important that it is something that at a foundational level in education that people are aware of the value. And unfortunately, as we're seeing, as you mentioned, often when there are cuts at a kind of broader, higher level, then arts and culture maybe the first to feel that. And without getting into any detail around clients or conversations we've had, but that's really where we've been able to, first of all, initially come in and maybe stabilize an organization by saying, like, you don't have to spend crazy amounts of money. We can get you on a stable platform and something that we can build on for the future. And if that ultimately is a full redesign, then we can obviously look at that. But Kun mentioned earlier, the parts or the way that the system is built, it really is like a toolkit for arts organizations, and it gives a tremendous amount of freedom and flexibility just by being on the platform. And I think being able to do that in a backdrop of money being tighter, I think we're actually, and again, just reiterating what Ken said, it's actually giving arts organisations more flexibility and freedom, but not having to pay for every single change or have to worry about, well, how are we going to meet the needs of that by finding some money from somewhere else.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add, Kun?
Well, maybe I need some help with the acronym of STEM or STEAM. I know the A is for arts, but I'm not fully up to date what that means. So maybe you can help me clarify what that means.
STEM is science, technology, engineering, and maths, and governments are basically prioritizing these subjects in early education because they see it as a driver for the economy more than arts as a driver for the economy. Even though we know in recent statistics, we've seen the arts industry, it's still growing, it's still a growing economy, but yet people don't seem to value the arts as important for driving world economy or local economies.
Yeah, unfortunately, we for some reason is always hard to understand if you're in the sector and if you see how important the sector is. We need to keep fighting for. However, at the same time, any challenging situation also boosts creativity, and I think this model that we now have was also born out of a necessity in a way. But then later on, we found, well, actually, this is not just a necessity. This is a much better way of doing things. Even if there would be infinite budgets everywhere, this is the way we can move forward and really build upon each other and use the collectiveness that is there. Again, I think there's more in common between a museum on Hawaii and a arts organization in Norway than they differ. Obviously, they differ on areas, but let's focus on getting that whatever percentage is common first in a good sustainable model, and then allow space for that individuality. And I think the positive, if you can look at it that way, of continuously being under pressure, being by elections in the Netherlands are a terrible outcome, for instance, and budget cuts and post-COVID, etc. It does spark open minds, and it does spark creativity within organizations, and also it creates a space for us to offer a better way to do things.
Yeah, and obviously, I think business talk a lot about creative thinking, and it happens a lot in business and bringing new ideas. So I think that alone brings a lot of value to the economy. So thank you very much for your time. It's been great to hear more about CultureSuite and the impact on the industry. I'm sure we'll be hearing more in the future. Cheers. Bye.
Pleasure.